I overheard my stepmother trying to cut me out of my father's will. I ran away and now everything has changed. They were discussing how to get me out of my father's life. They dreamed of spending his money without me, as if I were trash. I heard everything and left without saying goodbye. I overheard my stepmom and stepsister plotting to cut me out of my dad's inheritance, so I moved out and spent a year getting by on my own. Now my dad knows the truth, and everything's changed. I'm 23, and for the last 5 years I've lived with my dad's stepmom and stepsister. My mom passed away when I was 16, and about a year later, my dad remarried. It all happened fast. Soon, I had a new stepmom, Diane, and a stepsister, Megan, who's 2 years younger than me. At first, things were okay, not perfect, but manageable. Diane tried to act like a caring mom, but it always felt forced. Megan was polite but distant. I chalked it up to the awkwardness of our blended family and hoped things would improve over time. After Mom's death, Dad threw himself into work, and that didn't change with his new wife. He's a successful businessman, often away on trips or working late, so I spent a lot of time with Diane and Megan. For a while I was fine with it. When Dad was home, we'd have dinner together, and on the surface everything seemed normal. I went to college, coming home on weekends and breaks. After graduating, I moved back home while job hunting. That's when things started to shift. Diane became less friendly, constantly hinting that at my age, I should be living on my own. Megan, who'd also recently finished school, moved back home too, and suddenly the house felt crowded. There was this tension I couldn't quite figure out. I'd been job hunting for months, sending out resumes and going to interviews. The economy's tough, but I was trying. Dad supported me, telling me to take my time and find the right job. Diane, on the other hand, kept pushing me to move out. Then, last week, I overheard a conversation that turned my world upside down. I was in my room with the door closed when I heard Diane and Megan talking in the hallway. They must have thought I wasn't home, because they weren't trying to keep their voices down. Diane said they needed to deal with him before the will was finalized, and Megan agreed, saying they couldn't risk letting me get an equal share. It didn't take much to realize they were talking about me. I sat there, stunned, as they discussed ways to convince Dad to kick me out. Diane suggested making it harder for me to use the family car so I couldn't get to interviews. Megan proposed accidentally damaging my laptop to stop me from applying for jobs. The conversation felt endless, though it probably lasted only 10 minutes. They talked about how much money they'd have if I was out of the picture, what trips they could take, what things they could buy, all while scheming to make my life harder. When they finally walked away, I felt sick. These people who I'd thought of as family had been living with me for years, and now they were conspiring against me like I was just an obstacle to their plans. The next few days were a blur. I tried to act normal, but it was tough. Every interaction with Diane and Megan felt fake. Sometimes I'd catch them looking at me with this calculating expression, and it gave me chills. I considered telling Dad everything but hesitated. He seemed happy with Diane, and I didn't want to shatter that. Plus, I had no proof. It'd be my word against theirs, and I wasn't sure whose side he'd take. So I decided to stay calm and started planning to move out. I reached out to friends to see if anyone needed a roommate and doubled down on my job search. I was willing to take any job, even ones I'd previously thought were beneath me, just to get out of that house as fast as possible. A week after that conversation, I got a break. A friend of a friend was looking to sublet his apartment for 6 months while he studied abroad. The rent was steep, but I had some savings and could make it work, so I jumped at the chance. When I told Dad I was moving out, he was surprised but supportive. Diane and Megan, though, couldn't hide their excitement. They even made a show of helping me pack, exchanging knowing glances they thought I didn't notice. The day I left, I overheard them again. This time, they were talking about making sure Dad didn't change the will, now that I was gone. That's when it hit me. It wasn't just about getting me out of the house. They wanted to cut me out of the inheritance completely. I've been in my new place for a month now. The apartment's small, and the neighborhood's not the best, but it's mine. I'm still looking for a permanent job, taking whatever temporary gigs I can to make ends meet. It's not perfect, but it's better than living with people who see me as a barrier to their paycheck. Dad calls every few days to check in. He's noticed I don't come around anymore, and I can tell he's worried. I make excuses, say I'm busy with work or settling in, but I haven't been able to bring myself to tell him the truth. I thought about hiring a lawyer to protect my inheritance, but I realized it's not about the money, It hurts to know the people I thought were family only see me as an obstacle to their gain. Sometimes late at night, I think about how disappointed Mom would be that I'm not fighting for what's rightfully mine. But then I remember her words. Family's about love, not blood or legal documents. By that logic, Diane and Megan were never my family. I don't know what's next. Part of me wants to confront them and expose their plans. Another part just wants to walk away and never look back. For now, I'm focused on building my own life, without relying on an inheritance or anyone's goodwill. Last week, I finally landed a job entry level with a modest salary, but it's something I haven't told Dad yet. The less Diane and Megan know about my life, the less chance they have to interfere. I started seeing a therapist, the most affordable one I could find. Slowly but surely, they're helping me work through my anger and sense of betrayal. They suggested writing letters to Diane and Megan. Not to send, just to get my feelings out. Now I've got a few notebooks filled with words I wish I could say to them. Sometimes I dream about Mom. In those dreams, she's always smiling, telling me she's proud of me. I wake up feeling both comforted and heartbroken. I miss her more than ever. I wish I had her advice to navigate this mess. I've been thinking about reaching out to relatives on Mom's side. We drifted apart after her death, mostly because it was too painful for everyone. But now, I feel like I need that connection. Maybe it's time to rebuild those ties. Over time, my life settled into a routine: work, home, work again. It's not thrilling, but it's stable. I'm slowly building a life without Diane, Megan, or talk of inheritances. Dad's birthday is coming up, and I'm torn about whether to go to the family dinner. I want to see him and celebrate, but the thought of sitting at a table with Diane and Megan, pretending everything's fine, makes my stomach turn. I've started volunteering at a local youth center on weekends. A lot of the kids there come from tough backgrounds or have lost parents. I get them now in a way I never did before. Helping them deal with their pain and anger helps me understand my own. It's healing in a way I didn't expect. Sometimes I wonder what Diane and Megan tell people about my sudden move. Do they paint me as an ungrateful son who abandoned his family, or do they act like I never existed? I try not to dwell on it, but those thoughts creep in now and then. I've made new friends at work and through volunteering. It's refreshing to connect with people who see me for who I am, not as someone to manipulate for their own gain. These relationships feel so much more genuine than anything I ever had with Diane or Megan. The other day, I ran into Megan at the store. Awkward doesn't even begin to describe it. She was overly friendly, asking about my job and apartment. I kept my answers vague and got out of there as soon as I could. That encounter left me uneasy for days. It got me thinking about the future. Should I stay in this city, where I could bump into Diane or Megan at any moment, or should I move somewhere new and start fresh, where no one knows my story? The idea's tempting, but I'm not sure I'm ready to leave Dad behind. My lease is also coming up, and I need to decide whether to renew or look for something better. The thought of moving again is exhausting, but staying in this tiny apartment forever isn't appealing either. It's another reminder of how much my life has changed in such a short time. I've started dipping my toe back into dating. Nothing serious yet, just a few casual dates. It's nice, but it's also hard. I'm scared to open up, worried I'll get betrayed or hurt again. My therapist says it's normal, that rebuilding trust takes time. Work's going okay. I got a small promotion recently, which has eased some financial stress. I don't have to dip into my savings every month for rent anymore. It's a small win, but it means a lot to me. I still haven't told Dad what I overheard Diane and Megan saying. Every time I think about bringing it up, I stop myself. What if he doesn't believe me? What if it ruins our relationship? Or what if he believes me but chooses to stay with Diane anyway? I'm not sure I could handle that kind of rejection. Sometimes I even feel angry at Mom for passing away and leaving me in this mess. I know it's irrational, but the feeling lingers. If she were still here, none of this would have happened. I'd have a home, a family, a sense of belonging. I try to push those thoughts away, but they keep coming back. I've started learning to cook. I never needed to before, but now it's a necessity. I'm not great at it yet, but I'm trying. There's something satisfying about making a meal from scratch, taking care of myself in such a simple but meaningful way. With the holidays approaching, I'm facing another tough choice. Go home for Christmas or find an excuse to stay away. The idea of forced smiles and fake cheer around the dinner table makes my skin crawl, but spending the holiday alone doesn't sound great either. Lately, I've been struggling to sleep. At night, I lie awake for hours, replaying that conversation in my head. I analyze every interaction I've had with Diane and Megan since they came into my life, wondering if there were warning signs I missed. It's exhausting, but I can't seem to shut my brain off. I've thought about confronting them directly, telling them I know what I heard, but what would that accomplish? They'd probably deny it or twist things to make me look like the bad guy. If it got back to Dad, it might only make things worse. Some days I feel okay. I go to work, come home, keep moving forward. Other days the weight of everything hits me so hard it's a struggle to get out of bed, to exist in a world where the people who were supposed to be my family saw me as nothing but an obstacle. I've started keeping a journal, writing down my thoughts and feelings. It helps to get it all out on paper, to process and make sense of it. Maybe one day I'll look back on these entries and see how far I've come. For now, it's just a way to navigate this challenging time. 6 months after moving out, I still look back and reflect on everything that happened. I'm not the same person I was when I overheard that conversation. In some ways, I'm stronger, in others, more vulnerable. I'm learning to stand on my own, to build a life that doesn't depend on anyone's approval or inheritance. I don't know what the future holds, whether I'll ever confront Diane and Megan, tell Dad the truth, or fully move past this betrayal and learn to trust again. I don't have answers yet, but I'm trying to live in the moment, creating a life that's mine alone. It's not easy, it's not the life I imagined, but it's mine, and that's enough for now. Update 1. It's been a year since I left my dad's house after overhearing my stepmom and stepsister plotting to push me out. A lot's changed since then, not all for the better. Sorry for the delay in updating. Life's been incredibly hectic, and it's taken me a while to find the time and emotional energy to sit down and write. I've been working a lot while continuing therapy, so updating this wasn't my top priority. But I know some of you have asked what's going on, so I finally made myself do it. Thank you to everyone who left comments on my original post with advice, support, or kind words. Your messages meant more to me than you can imagine, especially during those tough early months on my own. I tried to read every comment, even if I couldn't respond to them all. Your support was a bright spot in a dark time, and I'm so grateful for it. Now, on to the update. I'm still at the same job I got after moving out. It's fine, but the pay barely covers my expenses. I'm looking for something better, but the job market's brutal right now. Every rejection letter feels like a personal setback, a reminder that I'm still struggling to get my life together. My relationship with Dad has gotten strained. I avoid family gatherings and make excuses not to visit. He's noticed, of course. He calls more often now, asking if I'm okay. I hate lying to him, but I can't bring myself to tell him why I left. The few times I've seen him, he's looked worried and tired. I wonder if it's stress from Diane and Megan, or just concern for me. I did go to his birthday dinner a few months ago. It was as uncomfortable as I expected. Diane and Megan were overly cheerful, asking about my job and apartment with fake concern. I could see the calculation in their eyes. I left as soon as I could, claiming I had an early meeting. The holidays were tough too. I told Dad I couldn't come home for Christmas because of work. In reality, I spent the day alone in my apartment, eating microwave turkey and watching old movies. It was lonely, but still better than pretending to be a happy family with Diane and Megan. I keep thinking about telling Dad the truth. But every time the thought crosses my mind, I talk myself out of it. What if he doesn't believe me? What if it drives a wedge between us? Or what if he believes me but stays with Diane anyway? I'm not sure I could handle that. Therapy's been helpful, but progress is slow. I'm still working through the anger and betrayal I feel. My therapist says healing takes time, but some days I feel like I'll never get past this. I've had a few more run-ins with Megan around town. Each time, she acts like everything's fine, like we're still one big happy family. It makes my stomach turn. I've started avoiding certain stores and restaurants to reduce the chance of running into Megan or Diane. Volunteering at the youth center has been my lifeline. I met a few kids there, including a teenager named Alex, who lost his mom last year. Helping him navigate his grief has been healing for me, a reminder that there's still good in the world and that I can connect with people. I've tried dating a few times over the past year, but nothing's worked out. It's hard for me to open up. I'm always waiting for something to go wrong. My last date ended with the woman saying I have too much baggage. She's probably right. My lease ends next month, and I'm not sure what to do. The thought of moving again is draining, but I'm tired of this cramped apartment, the noisy neighbors, and the spotty heating. I've been looking at places in other parts of the city. I also reached out to my mom's sister, Aunt Sarah. We hadn't talked much since Mom passed. It was awkward at first, but as we spoke, I felt like I was reclaiming a piece of myself I'd lost. Aunt Sarah invited me to visit her this weekend. I'm considering it, though the idea of explaining everything that's happened feels daunting. Work's been more stressful lately. There are rumors of layoffs, and as a newer employee, I'm worried I might be on the chopping block. The thought of losing my job terrifies me. I'm almost out of savings and don't know how long I could last without income. I've started having nightmares about being homeless, having to move back to Dad's and face Diane and Megan. I wake up in a cold sweat, heart racing, and it takes hours to calm down and fall back asleep. My birthday passed quietly. Dad called, of course, and a few friends took me out for drinks. It was hard not to compare it to birthdays when Mom was alive, with big family celebrations. The contrast was stark and left me feeling down. Lately I've been thinking about Mom a lot, wondering what she'd make of all this, what advice she'd give. Sometimes I talk to her photo, telling her everything that's happened. It might sound childish, but it helps. The anger I feel toward Diane and Megan hasn't faded much over the past year. If anything, it's grown stronger. I often imagine confronting them, telling them I know everything. In my daydreams, they confess and Dad kicks them out. But I know that's just a fantasy. I've started exploring legal options, just in case. I met with a lawyer who specializes in inheritance issues. He said without proof, there's little I can do to secure any potential inheritance. He suggested talking to Dad about setting up a trust, but that would mean telling him everything, and I'm not ready for that yet. All this stress is taking a toll on my health. I've lost weight and feel exhausted all the time. My doctor says my blood pressure's high, and I need to find ways to relax. Easier said than done. I've thought about leaving for good, starting over in a new city where I'd never run into Diane or Megan. But the idea of leaving Dad behind, maybe never seeing him again, hurts too much to seriously consider. There have been bright spots, though. I've made some solid friends at work and through volunteering. They don't know the whole story, but they support me in their own way. It's nice to have people in my life who care about me for me, not for some potential inheritance. I've picked up new hobbies to fill the time and distract myself. I started learning guitar, something I've always wanted to do, but never had time for. I'm not great yet, but the process is satisfying. I also started running. At first it was just an excuse to get out of the apartment and clear my head, but I've come to enjoy it. There's something freeing about pushing my body to its limits, leaving my worries behind, even if just for a little while. As the 1-year mark of moving out approached, I started feeling more anxious. I felt like I should have accomplished more, should be in a better place. My therapist says I'm too hard on myself, that healing isn't a straight line. I'm trying to believe that. I did visit Aunt Sarah and her family. It was nice to be around people who knew Mom, who could share stories about her I hadn't heard before. For that weekend, I felt like I belonged again. But coming back to my empty apartment was harder than I expected. The visit also stirred up mixed feelings. Aunt Sarah asked about Dad, about how he's doing with his new wife. I stumbled over my words, unable to answer. She noticed and gently pressed for more. Eventually, I told her everything. Aunt Sarah was furious. She wanted to call Dad right then and confront Diane and Megan herself. I had to calm her down, explaining why I haven't told him yet. She didn't agree with my choice, but respected it. Before I left, she made me promise to stay in touch and let her know if I need anything. Knowing someone from Mom's side of the family has my back is comforting. Sarah checks in regularly now, asking how I'm doing. She even offered to let me stay with her if things get too tough financially. I'm not ready to take her up on it, but it's nice to know the options there. As for Dad, things came to a head last week. He showed up at my apartment unannounced, looking worried. He said he couldn't take the distance between us anymore, that he needed to know what was going on. I tried to brush it off, make excuses, but he wouldn't let me. We ended up talking for hours. I spilled everything, how I overheard Diane and Megan's conversation, my fears about the inheritance, why I've been avoiding family gatherings. It all came pouring out in a rush of emotions I couldn't control. Dad listened quietly, his face growing more serious with every word. When I finished, he was silent for a long time. Then he apologized. He said he had no idea any of this was happening, that he'd been blind to what was going on in his own home. Dad didn't explicitly say he believed me, but he didn't dismiss my concerns either. He promised to look into things, to pay closer attention to Diane and Megan's behavior. He also said he'd talk to his lawyer about protecting my inheritance, no matter what happens with his marriage. After our conversation, I felt a wave of relief, like a heavy weight had been lifted. But I also felt guilty, worried I might be ruining his life, his marriage. Dad reassured me I did the right thing by telling him that he needed to know. Still, I saw doubt in his eyes. It's been a week since we talked, and I haven't heard much from him. He texted that he's sorting things out and will reach out soon. I'm trying not to read too much into the silence, but it's hard not to worry. Yesterday, Diane called me. Her voice was sugary sweet as she invited me to dinner on Sunday. I declined, saying I had work. I wonder if she knows I talked to Dad, if she's trying to smooth things over. The thought leaves a bad taste in my mouth. As I approach the second year of living on my own, I find myself at a crossroads. Do I stay here close to Dad but also to Diane and Megan? Do I take Aunt Sarah's offer and move closer to Mom's family? Or do I start fresh, relocate to a new city, and build a new life? I don't have answers yet, but for the first time, I feel like I have options. The future's uncertain, but it doesn't seem as bleak as it did a year ago. I'm not okay, not completely, but I might be starting to heal. For now, I'm living day by day, focusing on my job, volunteering, and new hobbies. I'm building a life that's entirely mine, one that doesn't depend on anyone's goodwill or inheritance. It's not easy, and it's not the life I dreamed of, but it's mine. Talking to Dad stirred up a lot of old feelings. I've been thinking about Mom more, wondering what she'd make of all this. Would she be proud that I'm standing on my own? Disappointed that I didn't fight harder? I'll never know, and that uncertainty eats at me. Sleep's been tough again. Every time my phone buzzes, I jump, thinking it's Dad with news. The waiting is unbearable. I've thrown myself into work and hobbies to keep my mind busy, but in quiet moments, the anxiety creeps back in. Update 2. Last week, Megan tried to friend me on social media. I ignored the request, but it still rattled me. Is she trying to keep tabs on me, or is this just another attempt to keep up the facade of a happy family? Either way, I want nothing to do with her. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about the future. Before all this, I had vague plans, maybe grad school, a career. Now I'm just trying to stay afloat, to survive. I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to look ahead with hope instead of worry. My lease ends next week, and after a lot of thought, I decided to move to a slightly better apartment in a different neighborhood. It's a small step, but it feels important. I want to move forward, not stay stuck. Yesterday, I had dinner with Alex from the youth center. He's heading off to college soon and wanted to thank me for supporting him this past year. Seeing him push through his pain, moving forward despite his loss, gave me hope. Maybe I can do the same. As I packed for the move, I found myself reflecting on my life. A year ago, I left Dad's house with a suitcase and a broken heart. Now, I have a job, an apartment, friends. It's not much, but it's what I've built on my own. I'm proud of that, even with the pain and uncertainty still lingering. I'm still waiting to hear from Dad. He promised to sort things out, but he's been quiet, and the silence is heavy. I'm trying not to overthink it, to be patient. Whatever happens, I'm ready. I'm stronger than I was a year ago. I've survived betrayal, loneliness, and uncertainty. I can handle whatever comes next. For now, I'm focused on the move, on making my new place feel like home, on continuing to build a life that's mine. Regardless of what happens with Dad, Diane, or Megan, it's not the life I pictured, but it's my life. Final update. It's been about 3 months since my last update, and a lot has happened. I'm not sure where to begin, but I'll start with the big news. After our conversation where I told Dad everything about overhearing Diane and Megan's plans, he took action. For weeks he investigated. He hired a private investigator, reviewed financial records, and even set up some kind of sting operation. He didn't share the details. In the end, he found enough evidence to confirm what I'd told him, and more than I could have imagined. It turns out Diane and Megan had been siphoning money from Dad's accounts for years. They made small transfers, amounts too minor to raise red flags, but over time, it added up to a significant sum. On top of that, they were pressuring Dad to change his will. When he confronted them with the evidence, things spiraled. At first, Diane denied everything, then tried to pin it on Megan, but Megan cracked under pressure, and confessed, implicating Diane in the process. It was a total mess. Dad's now filed for divorce and opened a case for financial fraud. Diane and Megan moved out, and last I heard, they're staying with Diane's sister in another state. I have mixed feelings about everything that's happened. On one hand, I feel relieved because everything I feared, everything I overheard, turned out to be true. On the other hand, it's painful to watch Dad go through this. He loved Diane, or at least thought he did, and learning it was all a lie hit him hard. We've been talking more often now. He's apologized countless times for not seeing it sooner, for not believing me right away. I've forgiven him, but our relationship still feels strained. We're working on it. We have dinner together every week now. It's awkward at times, but it's a start, a step towards something new. As for me, I'm settling into my new apartment. The move was exactly what I needed. It feels like a fresh chapter, a place with no ties to Diane or Megan. I'm constantly tinkering with the space, turning it into a real home. Things are looking up at work too. Those layoffs I was worried about didn't happen. And I recently got a small raise. It's not a fortune, but I'm no longer living paycheck to paycheck. I've even started saving a little. It's a small amount, but it's progress. Therapy's still going. My therapist says I'm making noticeable strides, even if it doesn't always feel that way. The anger and sense of betrayal haven't disappeared, but they don't control me like they used to. I'm learning to live with what happened without letting it define me. I've been spending more time with Mom's side of the family. Aunt Sarah's become like a second mom, always there with advice or just to listen when I need it. I visit her more often and have been reconnecting with my cousins. It's nice to feel part of a family again, even if it's not the one I grew up with. Dating's still a challenge. I've gone out with a few people, but nothing's gotten serious. Trusting and opening up again is tough. My therapist says it's normal, that it'll take time. I'm trying to be patient with myself. Unexpectedly, I've started writing. It began as journal entries, but now I'm thinking about turning my experiences into a book. Maybe a memoir, maybe something fictional. I'm not sure what form it'll take yet, but writing has become a way to process everything, almost like another form of therapy. Last week, Dad and I had a long talk about the inheritance. He set up a trust fund for me, separate from his personal assets, saying he wants to make sure I'm secure no matter what happens. I tried to tell him, I don't need the money, that I didn't leave for that, but he insisted. I think it's his way of making amends. He's also planning to sell the house. It holds too many bad memories. It's bittersweet, since it's the home of my childhood. But I understand why he needs a fresh start. We've been looking at smaller places for him. He even joked about us being neighbors, though we both know we're better off with some space. I ran into one of Megan's friends at the store last week. She shot me a dirty look and muttered something about me ruining Megan's life. I wanted to respond, to explain, but I just walked away. Their opinions don't matter anymore. I know the truth, and that's enough. Work's been a good distraction. I'm putting in extra effort, taking on new projects, and my boss has noticed. She even hinted I might be up for a promotion soon. It feels good to know my hard work's being recognized, and that everything I've been through hasn't broken me. Dad and I are planning a weekend trip to a lake we used to visit when I was a kid, back before Mom got sick. I think it's a step toward rebuilding our relationship, a chance to create new memories to outweigh the bad ones. I've been thinking about Mom a lot lately, wondering what she'd say about all this, how she'd support me. I miss her more than ever. When I last visited Aunt Sarah, she gave me a box of Mom's things, old photos, letters, even some of her jewelry. Going through it was tough, but comforting. Having something tangible that connects me to her means a lot. I've started reaching out to old friends I lost touch with when all this went down. Some were happy to hear from me, others not so much. But I'm glad to be rebuilding my social circle, to have people in my life again who knew me before this mess. The legal proceedings against Diane and Megan are ongoing. Dad's lawyer keeps us updated, but I try not to focus on it. They'll face consequences for what they did, but their fate shouldn't control my life anymore. Lately I've been thinking about the future, not just surviving another day, but actually building a life. I'm considering going back to school, maybe getting a master's degree. It's a big step, but for the first time in a long time, I feel capable of it. I still have bad days, but they're fewer than the good ones. I'm not completely over everything, but I'm moving forward. I'm creating a life that's no longer defined by what Diane and Megan tried to do to me. It's not the life I imagined, but it's mine, and for the first time in a while, I'm curious about what's next. Thank you to everyone who followed my story, offered support, and shared advice. Your kindness meant more than words can express. This is my final update. It's time to close this chapter and focus on writing the next one. Wish me luck. Commentary. What an incredible story of resilience and growth. The author went through so much betrayal, uncertainty, and rebuilding from scratch, but still found a way to move forward. I think he handled things thoughtfully, even if it wasn't always easy. He didn't want to hurt his relationship with his dad, and without concrete proof at first, it's understandable why he hesitated to speak up. When he finally told his dad the truth, it wasn't just about clearing the air, it was about reclaiming his own peace. That said, I can see why some might wonder if he could have acted sooner. His dad seems like a reasonable guy who genuinely cared, so maybe an earlier conversation could have spared him some of the struggles, like living on a tight budget while his dad was financially secure. But it's tough to judge when you're in the middle of something so emotional. Fear of not being believed or causing family drama can hold anyone back. Hindsight's always clearer, right? What stands out is how the author built a life on his own terms. New apartment, new hobbies, reconnecting with family. It's inspiring to see him focus on healing rather than revenge. His dad stepping up in the end, investigating, and setting things right, shows they both want to rebuild what was broken. Nobody's perfect, and relationships take work, but it's clear there's love there. What do you all think? Did the author make the right call by waiting to tell his dad, or should he have spoken up sooner? Maybe you see it differently. Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear how this story resonated with you. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this, check out our other videos for more stories like this. Wishing you all the best. See you in the next one.